Greetings, everybody. I am Romi Hill. Romi is short for Rosemary. So, in case you ever wondered how to pronounce it, think of Ro. Ro, ro, ro. Happy Thursday. It's lovely to see you here. Um, let's see. It's a little bit cloudy today. There's a tiny bit of snow on the mountains behind us, but so far this winter, it's been pretty dry. And I have to say that, like last year, having been snowed in for a few months, I'm okay with that. I think my bit rate is a little low today. So there's a possibility that this isn't going to come through very well. And in fact, I'm kind of seeing some issues. I'm sort of watching myself, but hopefully it's coming through to you okay. So, hi to everybody. I never know when I go live if I should just kind of sit here and like look off into the distance or something and see if people will come and join. But I think I'm just gonna start and whenever people catch up, I'll be here. Hi, Sue. Yay, I'm so glad that you're hearing me well. Yay. Oh, good. Deborah. Yay, I'm so glad. I think so. So while I'm like streaming on a hotspot, a 5G hotspot, and then I watch myself, like I watch the YouTube, the delayed video on Wi-Fi. So sometimes it comes through and it looks really bad just because our Wi-Fi is terrible for the day. So interesting, um, we have some interesting Wi-Fi issues here. So I'm really lucky to be able to stream on 5G. Anyway, it's lovely to see you. Yay. Hi, Judy. Hi, Pamela, Deborah, and Sue. So nice to see you all. So today, I want to geek out a little bit, and hopefully you all are down for some knitting geekery. Um, I love the way I-cord looks, and I use the I-cord bind off a lot. You can see it here on my snuggle slips. There's an I-cord bind off around the ankle here, and I love the way that looks. And I never really loved the way the I-cord cast on looked because I could never get it to look like really neat and tidy and match the bind off. So I did some experimentation, and I'm gonna kind of go through the I-cord cast on, like what it looks like when you use the traditional I-cord cast on, and also what it looks like when you use the method that I developed to make it all neat and tidy. Um, so there are actually a couple of methods I've seen other people do, and in particular, casting on just I-cord. So like doing a long I-cord and then just picking up stitches from the I-cord for the cast on. And that also looks really neat and tidy. And then also I have seen somebody use a provisional cast on and then do an I-cord bind off to make it match what the bind off would look like. So either of those also works really well. And by the way, it's a little cold in my studio today, so this is crystalline. And I just kind of have it around my shoulders. Mohair is surprisingly warm. So it's a stole, and it's knitted on size 8 needles. So it actually goes pretty fast, and it um, gets really, you can scrunch it really small and tiny and stick it in your bag and then pull it out when you're cold and a little bit chilly up here. So I'm keeping toasty here. Okay, so I've been kind of playing with my I-cord, back to the I-cord, because I just love my I-cord. I've been playing with I-cord. I have played with the cast on and then also continuing I-cord up the sides of a piece. And am pretty excited to use some of this in my next patterns because before this, I sort of hesitated. I don't really love picking up stitches, and I think that using a provisional cast on is often sort of off-putting for people. So when you see the first thing is like a provisional cast on with waste yarn, I feel like a lot of people are just like, oh yeah, I don't want to deal with it. So I'm not even gonna do this one because I don't feel like, getting the waste yarn out, doing that provisional cast on, taking the cast on out. So, so yeah, that's that's what happened. I just sort of like did it. I fell down the rabbit hole. I'll just admit. I am a geek at heart. So, okay, I'm going to transition over here and I will show you what a regular I-cord cast on looks like in case you've never done one. Okay, so down at the bottom here is an I-cord cast on. So if you look closely at it, you can see that there is a bump right at the base of this stockinette column here. There are bumps all the way across. So that is from the KFB that you do to add stitches when you're doing a cast on. And then on the other side, you can see clearer that that first row is elongated. So so if you're looking at the wrong side, and you can't really stretch it into shape, like that row is always going to be elongated. And I've tried this type of method with a smaller needle even. So this is like your usual, you knit two and then KFB, and that's where you get that extra stitch here, like that extra little column of stockinette. So you can see, like, I don't know if this bothers you, but I get kind of picky because this up here is what an I-cord bind off looks like. So no bumps. I use the same size needle with the bind off up here as I did with the cast on, and yet this is much stretchier and it also looks kind of bigger. So the stitches down here are kind of smaller, and these up here, much stretchier. You can see there are no bumps, and it comes right down here to the purl bumps on the reverse side. And it's really obvious, like if I were taking a look at this, I could tell immediately which side was the cast on and which side is the bind off. And it just annoyed me. So I started messing around with it. So Pamela, um, I like provisional cast-ons too. But like the biggest comments I've heard from people are just like, oh, it has a provisional cast on and I didn't want to do it. So I just thought, I'm just gonna do one that doesn't require a provisional cast on. Okay, so let's take a look at what my method looks like here. So this is a cast on, and you can see up here, that first cast on row that I did completely disappears behind here. You can see like I switched my colors, and all you see here is that I-cord cast on. You can't actually see that first row of stitches because they are not elongated. And then on the back here, you can see the purl bumps from that first row. But behind here, no bumps. no elongated stitches. So I am going to show you how to do this. This one is in the round, and I grafted the end together here. So I grafted the live stitches of the I cord to the cast on of the I cord, and I will show you how to do that as well. Okay, so let's take a look at how to do this cast on. Alrighty, so I'm going to do it with bright, fun yellow yarn here. So I am going to end up on a size 4 needle. So that's what I want to end up with. Let me grab my needle here. I want to end up on with a size 4. So I am using a size 6, and this is a size 1 or a 2.25 millimeter needle, and this is a 4 millimeter size 6, US 6. US 1, 2.25 millimeter. So I want to end up on a US 4, which I believe is a 3.5 millimeter. I think so, yeah, 3.5 millimeter. Okay, so I'm going to use this tiny, tiny needle here is going to be what I'm going to cast the stitches onto that are going to continue up into the columns of stitches. And this one, because I want to make the I-cord nice and stretchy, I'm going to use a needle that is 2 sizes larger than the needle that I want to end up on. So as I was saying, I want to end up on a 4. I'm going to use a 6, and this is a 1. And this really works for any size of yarn. I just happen to be using DK. It just needs to be a little teeny tiny needle. That's the important part. And then also, I wanted to add, in case there's anybody new here who hasn't been in a lot to one of my lives before, just ask me questions in the chat if you have a question or something you need to know, and I will get right back to you, even though there's a bit of a delay. So there's a little bit of a delay in what I'm saying is getting to you, and then there's a delay also in me reading and getting back to you. Okay, so if I wanted to graph this together on the end, like I'm going to show you over here. So here's one in the round, and I'm going to show you the graft here. If I were going to do this on this one, I would leave a long enough tail to be able to graft it together. But I don't really care. I'm just going to show you this flat, and so I'm not going to leave much of a tail. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is take my larger double pointed needle and cast on 3 stitches using the backwards loop method. So I knit Western style, so my stitches are right leg in front and left leg in back. So these are the 3 stitches that are going to become the I cord. Now I'm going to take this little tiny needle here and slip those stitches on. So here's my tail on the right side. And even though it's on the right side, I am not going to knit with that tail. I have to remind myself of that. Okay, so my first row is a little bit different from the rest. And just by the way, Sue, I am so happy that you are geeking out with me. That's awesome. Okay, so I'm going to knit 2 stitches. And I really don't like those purl bumps on a regular I-cord cast on. So I'm going to knit one through the back loop first and then through the front loop. And so I won't have a bump there. So this first row is different from the rows to come. So it's just a knit two and then knit back front. Instead of knit front back, it's a knit back front, and that will not give you a purl bump. Okay, so hi Terry. And I'm gonna slip these right back. Okay, so in an I-cord, you probably all know this, but I will say it anyway. Your tube is made by bringing your yarn around the back. Okay, so I've slipped them back onto this needle, and now I am going to knit 3 stitches. Okay, I am going to do a backwards yarn over. Those of you who do lots of yarn overs, you know that it goes like this with the right leg in front and the left leg in back, but I'm going to reverse it. So my right leg is going to be in the back and my left leg is going to be in the front. And that makes it much easier to work. Then I'm going to slip this back. So the beauty of this is that because this is really just a loop here, when you pull your yarn across there, it makes that loop smaller. And you don't get that elongated first row of stitches. So I'm just going to keep doing that. I'm knitting 3 stitches and then a backwards yarn over and slipping these back. Okay, so if you are an English style knitter, you are going to be knitting 3 stitches. Okay, and then here's your yarn. You're going to bring it around like this. So you want the yarn to come on the bottom here. You don't want it to come across the top. And then just slip those stitches back. Okay, so I'm going to go back over here. So this actually will start to go faster once you kind of get the idea down. And you can see up here, these stitches are pretty small on that little tiny needle. Now, one thing is when you do the first row, all of your stitches are going to be mounted with the right leg in back. So you're going to be knitting through the back loop in order to keep your stitches nice and straight. Okay. So it's starting to come together. That's what it looks like so far in the back. And it will start to go faster for you. So if you were to do your yarn over the regular way, what you would basically have on your needle is an I-cord, and you would have like all of these little bars between stitches just up on your needle. So you can do it that way, but it's really hard to manipulate the stitch that way. So this kind of gives it that little twist there, sort of sets the stitch apart and makes it easier to manage. Okay, so that's what we have so far on that. So when you stretch it out, you can see these stitches are fairly far apart, which means the I-cord is nice and stretchy. But these stitches up here are still nice and small. So it's kind of like picking up stitches. You get this sort of the same effect that you might if you did an I-cord ahead of time and then picked up stitches because these stitches are so small across the top. Okay, so let us go down here I have stages of I-cord here. So I'll just move that one aside. So you can definitely bind off the end of an I-cord like this. But why would you want to do that, right? You probably want to continue it up the side, right? So I'm going to show you how to do that. So Judy, you said your challenge is working a shawl and having to pick up stitches at the end for the second row and have a hard time finding where to pick up the 3 stitches. Okay. Um, so basically, do you mean like the end I-cord stitches here? Because if that is what you mean, we're about to do that. But if not, let me know and I will talk about that too. So here I have, this is it's same size needles and everything. This is also a US 1 2.25 millimeter. So this is at the end of the cast on. And I could do this to begin with. I could move things around to begin with, but let me show you how I would go about turning the corner here. So I'm going to do, so you can just see that was my last bit of I-cord, and I just put that right back onto my needle there. So I'm going to bring this around, and because I'm turning the corner, I want a little bit of leeway there. Probably not a whole heck of a lot though. So I'm going to do this one row of I-cord here and then stick it back on. So, and by the way, I have started working with my working needle. This is a 4, a US 4. This was the US 6 that I used to do the I-cord across. So I'm now using a 4. So I've done one row of I-cord and slipped those stitches back. And now I'm going to do another one. Okay, so that just gives me a little bit of leeway to turn the corner. Now you can see here the stitches have the right leg and back and the left leg and front. So I'm going to knit them all through the back loop, and that's going to keep them from twisting. So they'll be nice, open, untwisted stitches. And you can see here, it's pretty, it's really stretchy. So because these are basically yarn overs instead of half of a KFB stitch, you can stretch that I-cord nice and wide. So I'm just going to get to the end here, and I will show you how to pick up from the other end. Okay, so here I'm at the end. Alrighty, so if you are not knitting I-cord in the round and you want to pick up some stitches to go up the side, your stitches are going to be half a stitch off. And that is because in going the other way, you're actually going to be picking up stitches. So if I turn it like this is my V that looks like I should have a stitch in the middle here. But in reality, the way I knit it, my V's are pointing this way. So my right side up V's are this way. But when I turn it around and I want to knit the other way, I'm going to be half a stitch off because in order to make this look seamless, I need to pick up in a right side up V, and that is half a stitch in. So I choose to pick up my first stitch above this one here. So right above, instead of right in the middle here, because I think that looks a little bit neater. I think it would look weird to have that whole stitch there just sort of hanging out in the middle of nowhere. So I'm going to pull this just to make it a little bit easier for me to pick up stitches. Okay, so I'm going to pick up my first stitch right on this side here. And this is kind of loose right there, so I'm not going to pick up through that. I'm going to try to pick up through the side here so it doesn't look so loose. Okay, so there's my first stitch that's kind of messy. Let's make that look better. So I'm picking up and knitting. Okay, so my first stitch that I picked up and knit was right before this column of upside down V's. So now I'm going to go to this next stitch, right, this column of right side up V's. It's the first column of right side up V's that I'm looking at. And I'm going to go into the top of that stitch here because I want that to look like it's continuous. So it looks like I just knit that stitch right there. So it looks continuous, but it's not really, but it looks that way. Okay, and then turning around here, you can see that there's another right side up V, and I am going to go into the middle of that. So this is where my tail is. And I think I'm going to need a little help to get this. So I'm actually going to put that up on a needle so I can make this easier for myself. And I'm just going to knit into that. And this is a lot of making it look pretty. So if it doesn't look pretty to you, like that's the most important thing. So I find myself just sort of going back and forth until I really like the way it looks. So I think I'm going to go through 2 layers instead of that 1 layer. And I think I just got my tail stuck in there. Okay, so that looks better to me. I like that better. And I think it's totally fine to do that, by the way, going back and forth like that. Okay, so now that I have that, I want to turn the corner here as well. So I'm going to add myself another little bit of I-cord here. So that's the start of my I-cord. Okay, let me move this. Now I'm going to put everything together on the same needle. Okay, so down here, you can see, it's not perfectly perfect because it's half a stitch off. However, it's pretty close. So once we start knitting here, it's going to be really difficult to tell unless somebody's just really looking super close at this because we have two of these stitch columns continued around the corner. Okay, so going up the side with I-cord. I used to just pull the stitches by slipping them all the way around, and it always looks a little bit sloppy. So here is another way to do that. And I'm just going to reposition these now so I can have it later. Okay, so on the first side here, I'm going to put this stitch in between these 2 stitches here. So it's basically just a tiny cable, but it's without actually doing any stitches. So I'm going to slide that stitch in, and then this stitch is going to come over the top. So now that stitch that I just put on the other side, that is the one that continues around on this side here. So I'm going to slip that stitch when I'm working on the right side here. Okay, so, and then on this side, and Judy, this is something you can do to any pattern. You can fix this so that it will look better on any pattern. So even if it says you have to slip those first 3 stitches, you don't really have to. You can turn them around and make them different. Okay, so over here, I'm going to take this first stitch here and put it right over here. So 2 stitches are going to cross over to the left, and that stitch that's at the very end is going to cross over and be right here. Okay, so same as before. I think I'm actually going to use a smaller needle. So same as before, I'm just going to move these around. Okay, so now I have that there and these 2 stitches here. Okay, so now I'm set up, and I'm going to work back the other way. So on this first row, I'm just going to slip these first 3 stitches because I have already done an I-cord there. I guess I could do another one if I wanted to. Okay. And here we go. Just going to go across here. So when I get to the last 3 stitches, that's a purl. I'm going to slip, knit, bring my yarn in front, and slip. Okay. So now I'm going to turn it over, and I'm going to knit the first stitch, bring my yarn in front, slip the second stitch, and knit the third stitch. Now let me just go right across here to the end. Okay, I'm at the end here. I'm going to bring my yarn in front, slip, knit, yarn in front, slip. And over on this side now, I'm going to knit the first stitch, bring my yarn in front, slip as a purl, knit the third stitch, and now I can continue across. So this is actually, if you're knitting with, I should do this in garter stitch so that you can see what it looks like sort of offset against the I-cord. So when you do it this way, that stitch isn't going to be as big and ugly as if you were to do it just with slipping those 3 stitches. So again, in front, slip purlwise, knit a stitch in front, and slip purlwise. So however much you want, however much leeway that you want when you're turning the corner here, you can really do whatever you want. This mine has kind of a little bit of a curve. I didn't really leave a lot to make it into a corner, but you can actually, and I have a little annoying thing here that I'll probably just sew in. So I don't actually look at that as cheating. Like if you have a little thing that you're going to sew in later, I think the ends justify the means in this particular case. Okay, so it's always going to be at the beginning of the row, knit one, slip one, knit one, and at the end of the row, so regardless of whichever row you're on, at the end of the row, it is going to be the reverse. So you're going to slip one, knit one, and slip one. And you can see that side looks a little tweaked right there where I added where I picked up the stitches. But as it goes up, it will look better. You can see along here, the stitches are not elongated. Okay, so on this side, knit, slip, knit, and here we go. Okay, so I'm just going to stretch that out a little bit. And let's get to the end. So it can break your brain just a little tiny bit when you're setting up to make your I-cord like this. But once you have it, it's really easy just to keep it going like that. So here's what we have. So you can see comes around the corner nicely there. I have a little, like, I don't know, I have an extra little blob there. I think I didn't put enough I-cord over here to turn the corner, but I can sew that in and it will look fine. So, and you're always going to have like a little bit of funkiness over here on the back side because of that half a stitch off. But once it's all steamed out, it starts looking much better. You get a much better curve around the bottom edge. There you go. So, and that is just annoying the crap out of me. But so this is where I picked up that first stitch before I picked up the others in front. So if I were to, if this were my project for real and not a swatch that I was just going to rip, I would take my yarn end and come up through that because this annoys me so much. And just sew it in tighter in there like that. Ha, much better. Okay. So I'm not even going to tell you how many projects I do this with. So if you have like just a little extra, you know, dingleberry or something like that hanging out, I think that it's totally not cheating to me. Like if it gives you the look that you like, that's what matters. Okay, so that is that. So um, I really love the way this looks, especially as it continues farther up. It just gives you this beautiful curve all the way around. Um, and it looks really, really nice, particularly with a garter stitch. Okay, so that is that. So let's have a little bit of fun here with this one. Okay, so this one, I was showing you, I was showing you this before. This is exactly how I would start something for in the round. And oh, Queen Tut, I am so happy to hear that. That is fantastic. Yes, Sue, I'm totally, I am so with you. Okay, so if I were going to do this in the round, I would cast on all of my stitches. So I cast on 50 here. And so 50 stitches. And once those are cast on, let me get the yellow out of the way here, all of the bright colors, so they're not as obvious. Okay, so at the end, instead of continuing this around the corner, I put my 3 live stitches for the I-cord onto this pin just to hold them. And then here is my my cast on right here. This is kind of loose. So again, I'm just going to sew that in after I finish grafting these two together. Okay. So my 3 live stitches, I'm actually doing this in 2 colors. So I could use the tail from the end of either side to do my grafting, but I'm going to use my cast-on tail over here because you can always use your cast-on tail. You don't always have this little extra tail like that. So I want to get these out of the way. Okay. So when I finished casting on all of my stitches, I worked a knit row flat. So I took my other color of yarn here and I just worked 1 row flat and I divided it onto 2 circular needles. I prefer that method to the magic loop. So now I'm going to come back here and graft these 2 sides together. So over here, whereas when I was going around the corner on my straight knitting, it was half a stitch off. This is not half a stitch off. These stitches will line up perfectly because it's just continuing. So the direction of knitting is going to continue straight across here. Okay, so I'm just going to thread my needle here. And I'm going to use a needle size, the same needle size that I used when I was doing my I-cord. And I'm just going to put my stitches on a double pointed needle. So these are super light, and I suggest if you're going to do some grafting that the lighter the needle, the better, because it won't accidentally fall out of your stitches. You don't want it. You don't want it to accidentally fall out of your stitches. Okay, so I'm going to take this little tail here that you can see, and the side looks messy. So while I'm grafting, I want to clean this up so it looks nice. So you can kind of see here's one line of column of stitches. Here's another column of stitches. And then on this side, here's the 3rd column of stitches. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to get all of those strings out of the way. Okay, so I'm going to come over here, and for this stitch, I want to go from the back to the front of the stitch. So this is mounted with my right leg in front and the left leg in back. So if I want to come in through the back of the stitch, I am going to put my needle in as if I were going to purl. And then I'm just going to bring that through. And I'm going to keep this super loose because it's always easy to go back and fix things and make them better later on if it's too loose. But if you get it too tight, it's very difficult. Okay, so let's go down here. This is my first column of stockinette. It's on the wrong side. And I am going to look for the first stitch that's nice looking. So that V right there looks like a nice V. Looks like it's pretty. So I'm gonna put my needle over there. So I'm going through the base. So I went under both of those legs. And I'm not worrying about how loose it is. So now I'm going to come back here to the other side and just slip that stitch off my needle. I'm going to go back in where I came out of. So I'm going to go from front to back through that first stitch. And now I'm going to go next door and go back to front. And I'm basically just sewing, I'm mimicking the engineering of the stitches, basically. Okay, so over on the other side here, I'm going to go to the next column. So here's my next column of stockinette, and that's a pretty stitch. So I've just grabbed both of those legs. Okay, and now I'm going to come back down to the bottom here, in where I came out of, and then back up through the next stitch. And to the other side here, I'm going to grab my last nice looking column of stockinette, and my needle is going to go under both of those legs. Out, and then on the other side, let me get this needle out of the way. I would usually do this at the end of the project, but to save time, I was just doing it now. Okay, so now that I'm over on this side, I'm going to come back over here and go back inside that stitch that I came out of. I'm just going to keep my yarn on this side, on the front side of the project right now. So far, that's what it looks like. And now that I have that, I'm going to go back, just going to take my needle, and I'm going to start on this side and just kind of start evening this out. So I'm going to make several passes. Once you get this too tight, it's very difficult to get it looking good again. So I just want to make sure that it's going to look okay. Okay, let's get this tightened up here. I'm just going to bring it all the way across. So I think I had one that was a little bit off. I think I accidentally got like a thread of one of the yarns that's making it more difficult to pull this through. I'm going to pull it apart a little bit so now you can see what happens if you were to get it too tight. It's more difficult to pull apart. There we go. I'm just going to even that out, going all the way across. Just pull on these until I like the way the gauge looks. And I want to make sure that I don't have any little loops kind of trapped out there in the middle of nowhere. So now you can see over here that kind of loose little stitch there. Okay, So now I'm just going to run my needle through that looser stitch so I can pull it down. And on the back, on the wrong side, I am going to grab that a little bit so that I can sew it in better. Okay. And there we go. So there's still that annoying little piece there that I will probably like just sew in more. So I'm just going to sew it to the base here so it doesn't annoy me anymore. Just sew it out of the way. It would be so nice. Wouldn't it be nice if you could do that with life? Sew all of your problems out of the way so you can't see them. Okay, there we go. And there is your, there's the join here. Okay, so Sue, yes, it is tricky. Let's see. Yes, definitely, Sue. I always spend it a long time as well. Like I getting that gauge right is super tricky, and then you have these annoying little pieces of like little stitches here. It can just ruin my day. There, it's all put away. Alrighty, there we go. Let's see if any questions. Okay. So, does anybody have any questions or anything that you would like me to show you again on this? Like, oh, and actually, I was going to show you the I-cord bind off. I know I've showed that before, but just in case there's somebody who wasn't around like the all of the times that I've showed it before, I do actually have a little swatch where I can show you how to do the bind off. So while I'm doing that, think about any questions you have or anything about the I-cord cast on or like going around corners or any of that stuff, and I will answer those as well. Oh, you are so welcome, Sue. Thank you for helping me celebrate my birthday. It's always better when I share. Okay, so I-cord bind off. One of my favorite things, so I have it on a lot of my shawls. So if you have knit my shawls, this is nothing new. I'm just going to show you the regular I-cord bind off, not the reverse I-cord as usual, just the one that I did here, up here on the bind off on my swatch. So this is another way that you can make your I-cords match, and that is to use a waste yarn cast on and then take it out, and you can bind off on both sides. So here is that bind off. So I'm going to start with a knitted cast on and cast on 3 stitches. So this is US 3 and this is a US 5, so 2 sizes larger than my working needle, and that's just so I can somehow, like I always end up pulling my I-cord really tight because it looks kind of loopy. So I always just compensate with a needle that's larger. So I'm going to knit 2 stitches and then knit 2 together through the back loop. Okay, so there are 2 schools of thought here. Um, I don't mind knitting two together through the back loop and twisting that stitch, but some people do not like that. So you can also do an SSK. So you do a slip and then a slip, and then you can knit those two together through the back loop. Okay, so I'm going to stick these back on. So we're going to do a knit two, and I'll just do that slip, slip, knit again. So that's slip as if to knit, slip as if to knit, back onto my left needle, and my right needle is through the back loop of both of those, and they're going to get knit together. So that will not twist the stitches that you have on the body. So now if you are an English knitter, that would be knit two, oops, and then slip, slip, and knit two together. Or if you want to do the twist, you can do that too. I find that goes a little bit faster and I don't think it makes that big of a difference. So I'm going to knit, knit, and then that's a twisted. So knit two together through the back loop, it's twisted. And there you have your I-cord bind off. And on the other side, it can look a little loopy at first, but once you have stretched it out, it will start to look really nice. So there you go. Okay, and Pamela, that you are working on an I-cord bind off. Yay, perfect. So I have been working on kind of secret stuff, so I don't really have that much to share with you right now, unfortunately. But I really love doing these little like lives and talking about geeky knitting things because not only does it allow me to sort of connect with you when I'm off like in my head working on projects, but I love the fact that there are other just like people out there who are into kind of geeking out on little bits of technique. So if you have anything that you would like me to cover, I would be happy to cover them. I think this is really fun, and I also just love diving into things and doing research. So um, let me know. I just think it's a great time. Anyway, I am going to sign off. So it looks like no one has any other questions. So that is a long bind off, Pamela. Oh my goodness. So, but you'll get through it and it will look beautiful too. So that's good, right? Okay. So thank you everybody for joining me. I really appreciate it. Um, it would help me out if you would like and subscribe as always. So I know everybody who's in the chat has subscribed. Um, but it helps if you like and subscribe because then it actually gets shown to more people and more people can geek out with us about iCord. So the more the merrier. So let's see. Any other questions? Okay, I think we're good. Alrighty. So I'll be back next Thursday, and I hope to see you all there. Meanwhile, I'm around, and if you would like me to cover something, I would be more than happy to do it. So much fun, and since I've started doing this, I have just like rekindled my like my wow, the wow factor of all the interesting things that you can do with thread and needles. So, thank you again, everybody. And I so appreciate your being here. And I hope you will join my Facebook group and my Ravelry group and follow me on Instagram if you're on Instagram. So take care, everybody. Hope that you're having a great season and that you're calm and peaceful and happy. And I am wishing you all sorts of kindness and good tidings. So take care, everybody. Bye bye.